As Escargoon began to walk around the party, he still felt his anxiety bubbling up from being around so many other people. Some people he knew and was happy to see again. Others were all new people who had no idea who he was, but were happy to see him regardless. But his own nerves would not allow him to enjoy the party. I mean, of course, he was happy everyone cared about him, making him the center of attention. But it was still odd for him. It was too hard to take in.
Sorry we're late,
a voice called out from the front door.
Ah, Tiff. Tough. I was wondering when you two would be coming. Usually Tiff would not allow herself to be this late,
Meta Knight said, as he watched the siblings walk into the party.
Yes, well, I prefer not to be this tardy, but Tough took forever to put on a suit.
Tiff growled as she walked to the table, her brother following behind her.
It was uncomfortable, Tiff. It hurt my neck. Bow ties were always a problem for me.
Tough murmured as he leaned on the table.
Tough, you are not a child anymore. You are 14. You should at least be reasonable enough to put on a tie.
Tiff bellowed in complete annoyance at her brother's lack of know-how. Tough shrugged it off, but felt that he at least needed to defend himself.
Well, you're 16, and you still talk like a bratty little 7-year-old.
Tough mocked. Tiff growled to herself once more. Meta Knight obviously knew he had to cool off the situation, so he did just that.
You two, there are no reason to argue over such a petty problem. You both are somewhat immature in some ways, but you both have matured a lot as well,
Meta Knight explained.
Guess so.
The siblings said in unison as they glared away from each other.
Wow, Meta Knight, you sure do know how to put people in line.
Magalore beamed as a visible blush could be seen under his scarf.
Yeah, why don't you two just get it over with and kiss already? Yeesh.
Marks teased as he kept eating his cupcake. Magalore shot Marks a long glare as Meta Knight looked away blushing through his mask lightly.
I'm just saying, there are sparks there.
Marks suggested, closing his eyes as he spoke.
This situation isn't about that, Marks.
Magalore snarled as he clenched his teeth. Meta Knight cleared his throat. Before speaking, a blush still under his mask.
Correct. This party isn't about me or Magalore. It's about Escargoon, who we should allow to have his moment in the spotlight.
Meta Knight let out, sounding a little less composed than usual out of shyness from the comment.
I agree. Escargoon is the one this whole party is for. He should get the most attention.
Bandanity replied, sounding quite professional. As the others began to talk again, Escargoon decided to say hello to those two siblings that used to annoy him so. But they looked like they had changed a lot since the last time he saw them.
But wow, you guys look really different.
Escargoon sputtered out, not quite sure what else to say to them.
Well, yeah, last time you saw me I was as short as Kirby.
Tough commented, looking very chill in his leading position.
That's 'cause he sprouted up very fast. He complained the whole time it was happening.
Tiff teased, talking in her usual bratty way.
Did not!
Tough replied, sounding peeved by her comment. Escargoon actually chuckled at this.
You two haven't changed a bit.
Escargoon smiled. Tough began to babble a bit back.
Yeah, you haven't changed much either. Man, I remember when you used to get angry at us for even being around.
Tough responded as Tiff was quick to talk next.
Right. It's been so long, I forgot how you used to treat me, Tough and Kirby. But you seem to have warmed up to Kirby and hopefully us too?
Tiff hesitated, wondering if Escargoon still wasn't a fan of them. Escargoon smiled as he looked away from the two.
Well, I don't mind you too much now. You guys aren't loud, annoying kids anymore. No offense.
Escargoon trailed off. Tough smirked a bit.
We don't care, it was a long time ago. But I mean, I'm just wondering how you and Dedede are doing now after so long.
Tiff nodded in agreement.
Yeah, I mean, when you last left off, he was always clobbering you and dragging you around like a personal punching bag.
Escargoon felt a shiver go down his spine thinking about those days. The king had quite a temper back then.
Well, I can assure you, he's not doing that now. At least I think he isn't.
Escargoon supposed.
I hope so. What he used to do with you back then was uncalled for.
Tiff scolded. Tough messed with Tiff's hair before talking once more.
Yeah, it was crazy for you two back then. Remember all those times we'd chase you with a hammer and stuff?
Tough chuckled, remembering that is quite funny. Escargoon thought otherwise. It wasn't funny at all. It hurt a lot back then, to be chased around and sometimes clobbered.
Yeah, that happened. And I'm not fond of those memories. Surely that will not happen anymore, though.
Escargoon shuddered out at the thought of that kind of thing happening again.
You never know. He might be behind you with a hammer right now.
Tuff teased as Escargoon frantically looked behind him. When he realized Dedede wasn't there, he felt like quite the fool.
Tuff, quit it! That's not funny!
Tiff barked at her brother to stop his teasing. Tuff just laughed and walked off.
It's not funny and you are not clever, you half-pints!
Escargoon yelled out as he walked off. What the three didn't know was that King Dedede had heard the whole conversation. King Dedede had just kind of stared from one of the corners of the castle as all of that was being said. It was quite obvious. He was not happy with those thoughts being brought to Escargoon and scaring him with it as well. All these memories he didn't want brought up seemed to come back like karma. King Dedede ended up watching over Escargoon a bit more before leaving the main area completely. No one seemed to notice he disappeared. As Escargoon was trying to relax after the little joke, Tuff decided to pull. Kirby decided to run up to Escargoon once more.
Boya boya.
Kirby announced, grabbing onto Escargoon's hand.
What is it now, Kirby?
Escargoon asked, smiling weakly.
Boya boya boya.
Kirby asked. Obviously, Escargoon had no clue what he was saying. Meta Knight proceeded to translate.
He is asking you to follow him. He has a surprise for you, Escargoon.
Meta Knight replied. Escargoon's eyes widened a bit in surprise. That did sound interesting.
Oh, okay then, Kirby. Lead me to it then.
Escargoon smiled sweetly at the young Star Warrior as he was pulled into another room of the castle.
I just hope the surprise isn't a room full of strangers.
Escargoon thought as he was pulled. Who knew what Kirby had in store for the mollusk?